The multi-trillion-dollar artificial intelligence revolution is constrained by a single physical bottleneck, the amount of computation possible on a single wafer of silicon. This chart illustrates what the industry calls scaling laws. For several years, progress relied on a predictable mathematical relationship. Feeding a model exponentially more data and compute power resulted in a steady, measurable rise in intelligence. When researchers realized these gains were reliable, it triggered an immediate global arms race. Companies stopped focusing on efficiency and began hoarding the specialized chips required to process massive datasets. AI progress is bounded by hard manufacturing limits. Sustaining a digital service requires massive, heavy industrial infrastructure that consumes enormous amounts of raw hardware. At the center of that supply chain sits NVIDIA, led by CEO Jensen Huang. By positioning its hardware early, NVIDIA captured near-total control of this hardware market. Out of $81.6 billion in total quarterly revenue, the data center business alone accounts for 92%. And with no immediate alternative, NVIDIA operates with gross margins hitting 75%, extracting a massive premium from companies building AI infrastructure. That control is reinforced by CUDA, a proprietary software platform introduced in 2006. Over nearly 2 decades, millions of engineers have built their entire workflows and mathematical libraries on this software. Switching to a competitor means rewriting years of highly optimized code. NVIDIA operates a highly lucrative monopoly, and its own richest customers are now spending billions to break it. The largest consumers of these chips, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, and Meta, are projecting a combined $660 to $690 billion in capital expenditure for 2026. To reduce their reliance on NVIDIA, these hyperscalers are pivoting to custom ASICs. Google is deploying its TPU v7 Ironwood, while Microsoft has developed the Maya 200. These chips are hardwired for specific AI tasks rather than general scientific calculations. This bar chart compares the cost per inference query between hardware setups. When companies migrate from standard GPUs to these custom ASICs, operating costs drop by up to 65%, saving millions of dollars every month at scale. By designing their own silicon, tech giants are reclaiming their profit margins and systematically dismantling NVIDIA's leverage from the inside. While big tech develops internal solutions, traditional competitors are attacking NVIDIA's hardware leadership directly. Looking at this comparison table, AMD has targeted NVIDIA's primary hardware constraint. Their MI325X offers 256 gigabytes of high-bandwidth memory compared to 141 gigabytes on NVIDIA's H200. This density allows massive models to run on fewer chips, reducing overall infrastructure costs. Simultaneously, AMD is opening its ROCm software stack. Open-source models like DeepSeek R1 achieve significant performance boosts on AMD hardware in just 2 weeks, proving that the software mode is no longer impassable. Reaching technological parity on major benchmarks shows that NVIDIA is no longer the sole gatekeeper for frontier AI compute power. U.S. export controls have transformed these chips into high-stakes geopolitical assets. The government now treats top-tier AI hardware as a national security threat, banning exports to China to preserve a technological lead. Cut off from Western supply lines, Huawei is now attempting to build a fully domestic semiconductor ecosystem to power China's AI ambitions. Without access to TSMC's manufacturing facilities in Taiwan, China faces a severe production ceiling. Their domestic chips are estimated to be 5 times weaker than Western equivalents, and early manufacturing runs suffered from failure rates as high as 80%. This scarcity has created a multi-million-dollar gray market. Smuggling rings falsify documents to purchase hardware, like this Supermicro server chassis, routing the shipments through Japan to obscure the final destination in mainland China. AI chips are now treated with the same scrutiny as weapons-grade uranium, escalating a corporate rivalry into a volatile national security crisis. But as global powers fight for hardware, a chill has settled over Wall Street. Some of the world's most successful investors are now betting against the AI infrastructure boom. Michael Burry, who predicted the 2008 financial crisis, recently placed a $200 million short position against the leading chipmakers. Simultaneously, the hedge fund managed by Peter Thiel dumped its entire $100 million stake in NVIDIA. These investors are reacting to evidence that the scaling laws are beginning to stall. Successive AI models are 10 times larger than their predecessors, yet they fail to produce a tenfold increase in actual capability. Models continue to struggle with the outlier problem, where they hallucinate facts or fail entirely when presented with scenarios that weren't well represented in their training data. Furthermore, the industry has consumed nearly the entire supply of high-quality human text on the internet. There is no additional data left to feed the next wave of scaling. Trillions of dollars in infrastructure spending rely on the assumption of exponential progress. If the technical gains continue to diminish, that entire economic foundation fractures. Even if algorithms are plateauing, their physical footprint is expanding. The industry is pouring concrete and erecting steel at a scale rivaling entire cities. Project Stargate alone targets a 7-gigawatt power requirement, requiring dedicated electrical substations just to keep the servers running. NVIDIA stands at the center of this gamble. If scaling holds, they remain the dominant power of the digital age. But if custom silicon wins or the performance bubble pops, the $5 trillion giant stumbles. The global economy is tethered to this hardware. Trillions are locked inside these humming corridors, betting on an exponential intelligence that has yet to arrive. The underlying technology dictating the future of global intelligence is now the private property of a few dominant corporations. We are left to wait and see what they intend to do with it.